Well, fuel prices are set to soar when the government's petrol relief expires next week. Of course, it's tough timing with the conflicts in the Middle East escalating again.
Yes, and in another hit, Australia has just been slapped by the US with a 12.5% tariff on exports. With so many Aussies already doing it tough, the big question is, when will it end?
Well, joining us more to explain, Dr. Christian Bayliss, founder of Fortlake Asset Management. Morning
Hello,
to you,
mate.
Christian.
Morning.
OK, there is a lot happening in the world at the moment to make matters worse. Of course, we've been hit by this tariff yesterday. It's now at 12.5%. What does that mean, though, for us here in Australia?
Well, look, it replaces the 10% that President Trump had on as an interim measure while he tried to battle it out with the courts in the US. But the good thing, or the perverse thing about being in Australia, is that we really provide a lot of inputs for so many other parts of the world, i.e. China uses our iron ore. We don't actually produce a lot of goods and services that go into the US. We tend to export our goods and services to the manufacturers like China. So we are reasonably unaffected as an economy compared to those other people that are on the 12.5%.
There is a little bit of cushioning there. Talk to us, though, about Brent crude. It has just hit that magic $100 a barrel again. What's that going to mean for us?
Well, definitely we're going to notice that at the Bowser. Obviously, you're going to see that coming through, and it's probably pretty bad timing because the government's just about to take the excise off on the 2nd of August. So we're going to see this double jump come through.
And if we have a look at these numbers here, though, Christian, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It was just $70. So this is quite quick and quite fast.
Amazing. And you know what? Economists were just not expecting oil to stay so elevated for so long. And what we're really starting to see that is not only come through at the Bowser, but starting to come through in everyday grocery items. Think of fresh foods, think of fertilisers. The Strait of Hormuz has 1/3 of the seaborne fertiliser coming through that part of the world. It is really starting to become quite pervasive.
It rattles right down that supply chain.
Absolutely. And to make matters worse, we've also got some pretty significant wage increases coming through, 5%. And if you've ever sat at a cafe of late, you've probably noticed that coffee's getting very expensive, and that is part to do with that as well.
Okay. I don't want to be alarmist here, but just because we are hearing a lot, obviously, the Red Sea, that second choke point, has been hit this week by the Houthis. So there is a lot of talk about what's going to happen with fuel prices. But how high do you think we will see things go?
Well, look, it could go up to 150 at the very worst, but I don't think that's going to happen. Hopefully this can be resolved one way or another. It does seem unlikely at this point, but look, we have to prepare for everything, I think.
Talk to us, Christian, about our fuel stocks, though, because they're still relatively okay, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And look, we're a net importer of oil. 80 to 90% of our oil is imported, but we do have a good supply of stock. It's just that we are exposed to global oil prices, and there is nothing that we can do to that. If we produced all of our own oil, we would be somewhat immunised from that. But the
here's
fact
the numbers
that
on the day, so we've still got 46 days worth of petrol there.
Yeah, but it just comes back to us importing so much oil. If we weren't relying on global markets, we could sidestep it, but the fact is we are. Yeah,
we're very vulnerable, unfortunately, when it comes to that. The oil price shock, that has a flow-on effect. Let's talk about rates in terms of hikes, because all of us are sweating on what the outlook is like that for sort of the coming months.
Yeah, well, next week's a blockbuster week in terms of economic data. We've got the governor speaking. We've got the CPI out on Wednesday, which is going to be the all-important data point that feeds into the August decision. Now, what we're probably expecting there is inflation's going to drop at the headline level from 4 to 3.8, but the trimmed mean number, which is basically the trimmed number that the RBA focuses on, that looks like it's going to go up. And really what we're starting to see is that this elevated oil price that is just lingering around for so much longer than we thought is really starting to become quite pervasive and creeping into all of these parts of life that we didn't think it was going to.
Well, we certainly are feeling it. So, we're well aware.
So it does mean that there's a very good chance the RBA moves in August, unfortunately for mortgage holders. That's probably about a 50-50 at the moment, but it does look like people need to pencil in maybe one more hike for the rest of the year.
Well, thanks for breaking it down for us this morning, Christian Bayliss. Thank you.
Thanks,
Still headwinds for most of us. All right, thanks, Christian.